Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Koop'd podcast. The podcast that is trying desperately to get rid of this farmer's stand. It is absolutely killing me. It's only May. As always, folks, my name is Koopa, and each week I sit down with one of my friends, and we talk about all the happenings in our lives, in quarantine and all that jazz. And this week, folks, I have one of my favorite people. I say that a lot, but I mean it. For reals this time. One of my favorite people on the internet. She is an esports commentator, and if you're familiar with any sport of, competitive game, Super Smash Brothers, play Pokemon, she's currently lending her voice to the Overwatch League, and she is one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, Florida woman herself, joining me for the first time. Please welcome, give a warm Koop'd up welcome to my friend, VikkiKitty. Vicky, how are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad you opened like that too, because Koopa, if I could honestly count on my hands, like the amount of people that I miss immensely when it comes to events, you're definitely on that hand. Like I just envisioned like Hazmat, Virum, and Koopa like standing together in a line, and just the BM coming out about like absurd matchups that especially me, like I say the most outlandish things on purpose to rile Hazmat up, and then Virum is like the logical like one that comes into place. He's like, guys, that obviously isn't possible unless, and then insert like tech here, and then like it links it to a backer that you can't do if you just do a normal backer, like just like friendly banter. And like Koopa, definitely I love how we have that banter too whenever we go to these events. But yeah, it's been so long. I'm doing great. Honestly, just hanging in there like everybody else. I'm fully vaccinated, like I was talking to you about earlier. Yeah, and I'm just waiting for the next event to come out because, I'm feeling secure. Everybody in my home have been fully vaccinated too, so I'm not putting anybody else in my immediate circle in danger. So I'm just comfortable enough to already, I'm just ready to go out to locals, man. I'm out there.
I feel that, absolutely. And I miss you dearly. Like I mentioned, whenever we get like a group of us together, Haz and Virum, whenever we can all, congregate in one room, that single brain cell organism just works overtime that weekend, man. And yeah, listen, I'm in the same boat as you, as I've been it's been a month since I got my second shot, so I'm very much good. I'm slowly starting to exercise that social butterfly gene again, because I've been talking about this with a couple of my other friends, but socializing is exhausting. I forgot how hard it is to talk to people when you haven't talked to people for 14 months.
Wow. It's actually crazy that you just said that. I just had this conversation and I didn't know how to put it into words, but you just basically summed it up for me. Like me specifically, especially, like I'm a huge extrovert. I'm a social butterfly at nearly every event that I go to the point where I lose my voice very easily. Like after day one of casting, it was like a known fact that I could lose my voice in just exactly one day if I had to talk way too much in that day. And it doesn't help that like I'm going out to lunch and dinner with the homies, catching up, even though it's been like a week or 2 weeks per event that we were having in that ultimate timeline where like when the first year of the game came out, we were going to events literally every single weekend. So yeah, no, but now that like things are lifting up again and I'm seeing I literally saw MVD just the other day. He came down to visit his family in South Florida and we were catching up and I was like, wow, I'm so happy to be around like the people that I haven't seen in so long. But holy hell, am I so tired? Like I am ready to go home. And I was talking about it to some friends. And I'm like, we went to Universal like just the other week, and that was when restrictions started getting uplifted by the theme parks in Orlando, and I was sharing a room with our friends, that same type of group of friends that we would have at Smash events. And I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older. Like, I feel like 2 years have just gone by away from my life. Like, the last time I saw everybody, I was 23, like, turning 24. Now I'm 25, turning 26.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, I know. It seems like, I don't know. I've been, like, trapped away for 2 years. Suddenly it come out, I'm now 2 years older. I know I'm not the only one obviously feeling this way, but obviously like these 2 years feel like they've been almost robbed from me, and now I'm learning how to relive in this social setting again. And I realized that just the other day after that trip, like, wow, I don't think I could share rooms anymore. Like, just because I feel so tired. Like, going to retreat to my room was like I'm charging up my social batteries. And I know, of course, it's like an FGC thing, sharing a room with a bunch of people. And to me, it was the beauty of these events. It was super fun. You get to hang out with people that you usually don't get to hang out with all weekend. It's just everyone was kind of rotating and doing their thing at these events where, like, one person had to play Wave A pools, the other one had Wave C pools. So you had the people who were day drinking and the people who weren't doing doing anything like that because they wanted to focus for the end of the day, little a mix and match of everybody having different schedules. But now I'm just like, I need time to myself to just chill.
Dude, I totally feel that. Like, number one, I was like, you saying that you're starting to feel old makes me feel ancient because I forgot how old you were for a second. I was just like, oh man, like, I was talking to one of my other, Smash friends about this the other day, but I was like, once you hit like, the age of like 25, you're considered a grandparent. In the FGC.
Stop! It is. It's true. And now I'm a grandma. What's wrong with me?
I know. We're so cool, though. Listen, Latin grandparents are the coolest. Like, we know it.
True.
Listen. I'm handing out dollar bills and hard candy in it's like a Mrs. like Buttersworth cookie tin for the rest of my years on this earth as a Smash commentator. It is definitely what I'm gonna be doing, but. Yeah, listen. I feel you 100% on that. It's as someone who has shared multiple hotel rooms with multiple different people in events, I don't know if I'm gonna be ready to do that again. At least for like the last couple years, like before everything shut down, like I was getting hired at a pretty nice clip, and like most of the time they were just pairing me with other commentators, so it's like, okay, cool, I don't have to worry about having to drive my friend down the block to his 10 a.m. pool only to slug back into bed because I don't have to wake up for another 3 hours. So like, oh my god, I do miss it though. And like I said at the top, you are known for, you wear a lot of different hats. You are like, I get tired looking at the schedules that you have to work. And like, we've talked about this, on our own times and stuff, but I was thinking, whenever I have like a friend on the podcast where I want to sit down and interview him, I was just like, where is my first memory with this person? And in my old age, I was just like, oh my god, like, did I forget how me and Vicky became friends? And then it dawned on me, you were visiting New York to visit some relatives, and we met at a Xeno Saga, or I think it was a Xeno Weekly. So yeah, and that was like, a long time ago. That was at least like 3 or 4 years ago, and the rest has been history. We've been homies ever since.
Yeah, you actually just brought me back. I remember exactly that weekly because there's a VOD somewhere up on YouTube of like the casters talking about. I was playing, I think, against a Fox or a Samus, and I came in and Smash 4 to that local because it was down the street from my uncle's apartment because he was living in Chelsea at the time. And I showed up to the local, and I'm wearing, like, I'm from Florida, okay? I cannot, the way that you guys get used to the temperature up there when it gets to its coldest, like, I can't. Like, I get automatically sick. Like, the moment that it gets below like 50 degrees, it's already considered too cold for me. And I think this night it was like 15 degrees. There was like snow outside. Like, bro, I'm walking in looking like a snowman in my coat. Like, I don't even know how else like I'm supposed to dress out here. And like, I'm trying to sit down and unravel like my controller. Meanwhile, like my coat's getting all in the way. I'm like, I can't play in this shit. Like, I took that off, and then the commentator's like, oh, straight from the streets, taking off the coat, and everyone was getting like super crazy hype. Like, I'm like, yo, I love this energy. Tri-State always has the best energy whenever I go to those events, man. That thing was so hype. I had such a fun time that night, but I know exactly what night you're talking about too.
Yeah, I actually just Googled I tried to get like around that area. And I suddenly I feel a little bit less old. It was only technically 3 years ago, but it's probably going on 4 years, probably. But like things have are so much different than then. You've gone through a multitude of different hair colors since then. I grew a beard.
Yeah.
I can't go back and look at anything like pre-2019 because I look so god awful without a beard. I'm just like, oh my god, like take it away.
I don't even remember you without a beard.
It was weird. I don't like it. I keep saying to my friends, I'm just like, don't ever let me grow a goatee ever again. Nobody looks good in a goatee. Unless you're Guy Fieri, nobody looks good with just a patch of hair hanging from the bottom of their face. So it's oh man, it brings me back. So listen, like I said, you are one of my favorite people. Every time we get to kick it at events, I know I'm in for a riot. It's always going to be a lot of fun. Again, listen, I'm Puerto Rican. You're Cuban, right? Is that what you're?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. We bring the fun. We bring the party everywhere. It's a lot.
Oh yeah, and the loudness too. Most definitely.
Yes, especially I felt like one of my favorite things that I miss about Smash tournaments is like you mentioned, just like being in a constant state of losing my voice because A, I'm commentating all day, and B, because the venues are always so loud, I have to like
I need
talk.
to yell.
Yeah, I have to yell all weekend, and then like I get home to like normal life, and my girlfriend's like, "Why are you yelling?" I'm just like, "I'm not yelling," and I'm just like, "Oh wait, no, I am. I'm totally yelling. I'm so sorry." Oh God, I miss that. I miss that so much. But I know how awesome of a person VikkiKitty is, and I want to let the world know how cool VikkiKitty is. So we're gonna sit down. We're gonna take a stroll down memory lane, get to talking some shop, talk a little bit about everything. So I'll start off by asking, the question I ask all my guests whenever I do these interviews, outside of the food question, which you guys will understand in context when I do a preview for this episode. But so let's talk about what's your do you remember what your earliest memory with video games is? Like, what's the first game you ever played? Any of that stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the earliest memory, I have a few funny ones, but the one that has to be the oldest one has to be when my mom had me really young. Like I want to say, I was born actually on her birthday, on her 21st birthday. So she had just turned
Oh
21 when I
shoot!
came into this world.
Wait, that's
Yeah, we shared the
crazy.
same birthday type of thing. Yeah. So my mom was also like very studious. So she was going to college, and while she was studying and all that stuff, my grandmother took care of me. And you were talking about Hispanic grandmas and grandparents in general. Well, I was absolutely spoiled as a kid by my grandma, and she fed me great food too. Café con leche with tostada. Like count me in on that. So, but my uncle at the time, my mom's brother, was still going through high school, and he was playing StarCraft at the time, and he had an SNES. And I remember when he was in high school, we would sneak into his room. My grandmother and I would sneak into my uncle's room, and she would boot up the SNES, and we'd play Super Mario Brothers together. And I was always Luigi because I loved the color green, and she was always Mario because she was, she wanted to be player one. So that was like the earliest memory I had, was just playing Super Mario Brothers with my grandma in my uncle's room, and then anytime it was time for us to pick up my uncle, we wouldn't tell him anything. It was like a secret between my mom and I. It's so funny too because he never found out. I don't think he did, at least, unless like we told him when we were a lot older. But if it wasn't that memory, it was definitely when I was young enough that I would like see my dad, who would play Counterstrike on the PC, and I would like every time he was the chef of the family, so anytime he would make dinner or like lunch, he would like go to the kitchen, and I would sneak into the computer room in our own home, and I would just sneak on his account and play Counter-Strike. Like it was always me sneaking on somebody's account, man. That's like how it all started. It was like never like a genuine like, oh, it's my system, like I can play. I actually didn't have my own system for a really long time, and I want to say until like a Christmas where I found my GameCube underneath the other side of a laundry basket hiding in the garage, and like it was on Christmas Day that I found it. I'm like, oh shoot, is this mine? Like all the consoles we had wasn't mine. Like we had the N64, was my dad's too. So that was a great Christmas for me because I finally was able to call a system mine.
That's so awesome. So it's really funny to me that like a lot of your early memories of video games were you being a Smurf on other people's accounts. Like,
Yeah, actually, basically.
that is so funny. And I relate to that so hard. I didn't own, I told the story on other podcasts I've done, but my first console that I didn't have to share with somebody else was the GameCube too. So like I grew up around that. Yeah, I grew up around that same era, and that's so awesome. To hear all those parallels and to have like a family like that's like that invested into gaming, like that is pretty cool. Like because I had a Sega Genesis growing up. I had an N64 growing up, but it was mostly just my parents. Just like my parents are pretty old. My mom was actually like on the contrast. My mom was much older when she had me as a kid. She was she was turning 40. So spoiler alert, I wasn't supposed to be in the picture. That's a podcast for a different day though. But
No, but everything worked out because at the end of the day, you still were able to grow up around video games.
yeah, no, it was awesome. But like to hear that your father is like that big into PC gaming at like such at
Oh
a time
yeah.
that's so cool. Like I don't hear many people like have those sort of stories. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I would say that he enabled it too, because it took a while for him to even get to that point where he was comfortable with it. Because even though my parents were really young, especially like my mom's side, very classic like Hispanic moms that like tried to make sure that their daughters grew up girly, wearing bows in their hair, playing with Barbies, working with makeup, and like exploring and being curious, like very like textbook Hispanic, where they were like, hey, no, like lightsabers are for boys, like you play with Barbies, here's Rapunzel. And mind you, meanwhile, I'm here like I like both though. Like I have my Beanie Babies in one hand and my Pokemon cards in the other, and I'm like Hamtaro crying in the meme, like, why can't I just play both? Like, and it was really funny. But eventually they saw like I was obviously, if I'm sneaking my way to play these games, no matter where I was playing them, I was always gonna find a way. So eventually my parents became cool with it. They eased me in, obviously non-violent games, so Counter-Strike was off the table, and my only like fill of Counter-Strike was whenever my dad was already logged into his account. And then my dad also had his own PS3, which was not in the computer room where I could play all these games. It was in his own personal room, so it was difficult for me to play Call of Duty, because that was like that next step that I absolutely was obsessed with, like shooters for a really long time. And I think Counter-Strike is what kind of sparked that up. Now of course, if you ask me, hey Vicky, can you play Counter-Strike like you did when you were 4? No, I absolutely cannot. I haven't touched that game since I was probably 4. But Call of Duty is a different story, because that was kind of what expanded me into having my own personality, having like where my tag actually comes from COD, and having my own like PlayStation profile, despite that console not even being mine. The only console that I again like I that was actually mine was the GameCube, and that was like for all my story games that I really played around with.
That's cool. I'm gonna tangent off of that really quick. I've actually never asked you what the origin of your tag was. Was that just like an like a COD tag that you just
Clan.
used?
It was a clan, dude. Yeah, it was part of the
Oh
Kid
shit!
Clan, straight up. Yeah, I've said, yeah, and you know it's funny. It's like, oh yeah, did you? My tag wasn't like VikkiKitty by itself. Nah, it was like that cringe XX dash VikkiKitty with the dash XX at the end, because I was like too busy doing quick scope like fights, 1v1s and Rust. Like, dude, like that cringe stuff. I was like 13. I was having the time of my life, like exploiting that game. And thinking that I was so fire and so good at that game, in my head I was like, okay, if I could be this good in this game, I could be good at any game I want. And I was extremely competitive, like starting at that young age where I didn't have an Xbox, so I didn't even play Halo. Like it was always just Call of Duty, and I was even a tryhard. Like when Black Ops came out, I didn't even want to give it a chance. I was like, nah, nah, it's just Modern Warfare 2. That's the best game. It's superior. And then like Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare came out, and then I was like, hold up, man. I wish I played Black Ops when everyone played this game. This game's kind of cool, man. I like all the maps. Like me trying to be like a try hard like 14-year-old at that point. And then Skyrim came out, and like the meme around Skyrim and I is that that's like one of my favorite games in the world. Like that game is so good. But I dedicated so many hours in that game. Like that was like the first story game when I was like a young teenager to like explore, like because I only played story games really on the GameCube. I loved Nintendo games, like that was my stuff. But now I'm exploring like a story game that didn't come out on a Nintendo system, that was for the PlayStation. And from that game I actually expanded into playing other games like Red Dead Redemption or even The Last of Us, and these are other games that I really like too now that I was able to try out.
That's so awesome. I love how everything is sort of like daisy chaining off of each other. And
Mm-hmm.
listen, just to like to touch back on like the cringe gamer tags. I think if all of us took a look at our first screen names, we would all be Homer Simpson, like creeping into the bush and just like wishing death upon ourselves. Like I can't think of a single person who hasn't had like a single awful first gamer tag. Like mine, oh my god. If I had to think about it, it was like pretty bad. It was probably just like XXX, like I don't know, Fall Out Boy fan, like
Oh my
183
god.
or something dumb like that. Because I was an angsty, emo wannabe kid when I was like 14, and
Yeah, yo, honestly, you just brought me back. The first tag that I ever had, obviously, wasn't VikkiKitty because that was when I joined the clan. The first tag that I actually had came from RuneScape, and it was Wisdom is like just wisdom, and then I think in my head I was trying to make it Wisdom Ness, but I didn't know how to spell Wisdom Ness. I just spelled Wisdom is like Wisdom is at the end.
Oh my God. Listen, if you ever decide to go into go into a rap career, listen, that's a name.
Oh my god. That's
I think
the big W because we're only holding W's out here for wisdom is.
yeah, I'm 110% putting a patent
I
like
can't.
make the
I
Twitter
can't.
account right now just to hold on to the name just in case. You're gonna need it one day. But that's awesome. So like and I love that there's so much variety in the games that you grew up with. Like you said, obviously, parents can try all their might to make us not play these violent video games. But like, let's be real, like, like oh my God, I think it was the worst I ever got grounded. I was terrified. I was playing at a friend's house, and my mom came to pick me up, and me and this kid were playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Oh my
And
God! And you were not allowed to play that. I know for a fact that's
no.
how my mom was.
Yeah, no. My mom saw me playing this game. She gave me that look, and she's like, "We're gonna talk when we get home." And
Oh my
the
God!
whole ride home, I am shitting into my shorts. Like, she gave me a whole talking to. I got grounded. Everything was taken away from me. I couldn't play Pokemon. I couldn't play Sonic. Like, my mom's like, "No, I'm teaching you a lesson," and I was just like a miserable piece of shit fifth grader for like the next like week, and she was just like, "Wow, that was really hard for you, wasn't it?" I'm just like, "Yeah, I think I suffered like small bits of withdrawal sickness because I played that much video games as a kid because I am sick. I'm ill. I'm not well."
No, I feel that 100%. Whenever I got grounded, that was a cutoff for me too. Was video games, and like my bedtime was already 9 p.m. growing up. Like it till I want to say like middle school or something. And then obviously it was like push back another one. And I grew up as an only child for a really long time. My sister wasn't born until I was 7 years old, so I technically went through the first stages of childhood on my own, like trying to entertain myself, whether it be with dolls or those plushy toys like the Beanie Babies or like video games. Like I had a good mix of so many. I think that's why I like so many different games because I'm the type of person that can tell you and straight up look at you in the face. I've sunk over 2,000 hours into Overwatch, 2,000 hours into Sims, 2,000 hours into Apex. Like, I don't even know how many thousands of hours into Smash. Like it's just and all
Oh
these
man.
games are so different that like I don't know. I just have a lot of interest. Like anything that keeps me interested.
I love that so much. That's so cool. Now, did you do the proper older sibling thing and absolutely decimate your younger sibling in whatever games you played?
Oh yeah, it was Kingdom Hearts 2 at the time. I clearly remember. I literally remember how she was like wanted to know what was going on. It's like, she loved Disney. She was 3 and I showed her Kingdom Hearts and Melee. She played with me whenever I played Melee. She played all the time with me and it was unlocking the characters that we would have the most fun doing.
That's so awesome. I love that. I have like it's my brother's fault. For anyone that's wondering why I like Sonic the Hedgehog so much, but I watched my brother play Sonic 1 when I was a kid, and I was like, yo, who's that blue guy who's round and looks really cool? Because I'm a child and I'm enticed by shapes and bright colors. And he was like, oh yeah, he's like, oh yeah, that's Sonic. Like, look how cool he is. He's really fast and he does these things. And then like, my brothers showed me how to play, and then, we'd play Sonic 2, and then of course I'd have to be Tails because I'm the little sibling, and I would just mess everything and I would just mess everything up, and he'd just be like, oh my God, I don't want to play with you anymore. And then I'm just like, all right, fine. Whatever. I'll just go, I don't know, play with my Toy Story action figures in the corner. It's fine. I can handle it. I'm 4. I'm an adult. Like, come on.
The sibling disparity though is like so funny looking at it now because I remember like my sister tells me now she's like I didn't like playing with you in anything, not even toys, because you always played mean and like the bad guy. I was like, what does that mean? She's like, you'd always either kill me in the game or kill me with our toys, and it just wasn't nice. I never had fun. I was like, what? When did I ever do that? But it's so funny thinking about it. Like me just trying to create chaos like in any way. I remember we used to play Kirby Air Ride together, like Mario
Oh,
Party, like all the typical games that like because now I can finally play with somebody. I didn't have to play with the CPUs, which I was so used to doing literally growing up my whole life.
oh, I love that. That's so good. And listen, if Mario Party will ruin a lot of your like real life friendships, it might, but it'll never ruin your relationship with your sibling. I played many a game of Mario Party with my brother, and like my brother is like older than me. He's not as much as of a nerd as I am now as a 27-year-old adult. But
Mhm.
eventually he'll like find ways to surprise me. Like I remember my brother came. I think it was around the time like the live action Death Note movie came out on Netflix, which was like god awful. And my brother came over. And like I had no interest in watching it. I literally was just going to ignore it and move on with my life. And my brother was
Mhm.
like, "Do you want to watch a Death Note movie together?" I'm just like, "God damn it!" Like, ugh.
Yeah, now you're like, damn, I have to, man. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
something.
Like
Mhm.
it was like I was like, you were the last person I was expecting to want to watch this with me, and then we watched it together. He's just like, he didn't say to me about. He's like, oh, did he do the thing about the chip? I'm just like, what? Like, how do you know all this? You're like, it's like this. You're pulling all these like deep cut like references. I mean, that's a pretty surface level like anime meme, but for my brother, I was just like, wow, like I was impressed. Like like you're full of
I didn't
surprises
even know where
sometimes.
was this, man. Like I had no idea. That's how I feel a lot about my sister too, actually. And she's like about to be 18 this year, so completely like it's not like too far off, but at the same time, it's far away enough where like they're interested, obviously, in way different things than when I was interested at that age. Like I was totally a scene kid in that age, like creating havoc in real life, aside from the video games that we played when we were younger.
Yes, it's yeah. As a fellow scene kid, I am merely waiting for the days to pass until I can actually see My Chemical Romance in concert again. I bought these
Oh
tickets two
man,
years ago,
yes.
and I can't see them until next September. Like,
Oh no, but at least you got tickets, man. Those were sold out so quick. I tried, and I saw them advertising it in Japan when I went to Tokyo for Evo Japan, and they were advertising My Chemical Romance on this gigantic electronic billboard, and I was freaking out.
oh, dude, I don't. I'd like to thank my girlfriend for being like very quick with the concert trigger finger. She was just like, I have money.
God, like I was so bad with it.
You have to be because, like you said, the scene kids
Yeah.
show up to everything. Like these tickets sold out like hotcakes, and I'll be a the ripe old young age of 28. Still singing my heart out to Welcome to the Black Parade because I am still a young
Yes.
boy at my core. So I haven't told them to fit into my skinny jeans again. So this is a mental note for me to uh, eat some celery or something. I gotta make a mental note at some point. Although I will say something I miss, something that I've missed some significantly in my diet since we haven't gone to events the last 15 months is I've eaten a low amount of fried cheese this past year. What's the food you miss the most from like the road whenever you're like traveling?
Oh man, that's a good question. Ramen, because the ramen here isn't the same like it is on the West Coast. Like every time we had events happening in California or like Nevada for Evo and stuff like that, like dude, the ramen was always amazing. Even in Tri-State, actually, I feel like the ramen's 10 times better than it is in South Florida. Like there's like two good spots down here, but I do not have the same ramen in South Florida that I do whenever I'm traveling. It's like next level, dude, especially on the West Coast.
As someone that has had like Asian food in Florida, yeah, you're right. like
Yeah, yeah, the Asian food here blows, man. I do not like it. Like, it's not the same. It's just not the same, I guess. And I do miss that too. And I also miss like the group hangouts for Korean barbecue. That's also something else I really
Oh
miss.
my, you know what? It's crazy because I was always like, I was definitely felt it was definitely old man on the porch me where I'm just like, I don't see all the hype behind Korean barbecue. Like I get it. Granted, I live very close to New York City, so like I live in an
Mhm.
area where like I could trip on the sidewalk, especially now, and find like really good Korean restaurants. And I understand for
Mhm.
most people that live in like a square state in the middle of nowhere, like probably don't have that same luxury. So I definitely get it now, and I can't wait to just like sit around a fire roasting some meat with my friends
And
for
just
hours on
gorge
it.
on Korean barbecue and bulgogi, man. That's all I want to
I
do.
miss it. I miss it so much. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
We're getting closer. I'm excited.
I'm so excited too. But this was a nice little transition into the next question I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure the people at home are dying to know how did VikkiKitty get her start in the esports commentary? What's your history with how you got started? In competitive video games and all that fun stuff.
So, like, aside from me being a super competitive like gamer, like growing up, I mentioned earlier I'm a huge social butterfly and I'm very extroverted. And talking about something that I enjoy playing on my free time was new to me because again, like I grew up as a single child for the most part, and I didn't really have that enjoyment. Also, like a lot of school friends that I made, I went to school like 3 districts over, so like none of the friends at school lived anywhere near me. My mom was a teacher at the school that I was going to, so that's why I was able to go to school so far far away, and then I went to a private school when I went to middle school that was even further away from where I originally lived. So everyone just lived far away from me, and my only base of entertainment wasn't just playing outside and riding your bike down the block, but it was honestly just video games because there was really nothing else for me to do. And when it came to starting with Smash commentary, it was actually kind of motivated by DC, the Pokemon commentator that
Yeah.
now works for the Pokemon Company. He ran all the Versus Smash tournaments for the longest time while he was living down here. And he was like, "I need a commentator to go to the booth," because no one for some reason wanted to ever commentate. Like our scene just didn't really have casters. We had like maybe 2 to 3 casters. It was usually always Kino or DC himself. Like I don't really recall anybody else that would really try their hand at commentary around this time. So when they were asking for casters just to sit at the booth, I was like, you know what? I'm literally in the middle of talking about like a set that was going on in that moment with like I think it was True Blue and Ed Dad, or I guess back in the day he was known as Purple Guy or just Ed from Brawl.
Hmm.
And we were just talking about what was going on in the matchup. And when they were asking for casters, I was like, I could just do this on like the mic, I guess. And I like poked my head and I'm like, I'll cast. And they're like, hell yeah. And it was like top 8, I think. And we casted, it was DC and I casting top 8. And I got hit with so much good feedback and just like so much encouragement that I had so much fun doing it. I was like, yeah, having a conversation with everyone. Like, aside from just talking about what we were seeing, it was like people theory crafting about what could have been done or what could be done different. And like, I really liked that. I love talking about the game from an analytical point of view and theory crafting for any game. I could do that for any game right now too. And I just enjoyed it and I like talking about the game. And I was like, why not just do this in front of a camera? And then that's kind of what we did. But the thing is that like I was thrown to the sharks like so quick. And what I mean by that, like it's not a bad thing. Like most people what they do, like or I guess the best advice I could give to people who are trying to start out is to consistently keep casting at their locals because that's one, how you get in-person experience, two, that's how you get familiar with your local scene, and three, that's how you make connections. And your local TO is gonna see that you're out here grinding. And like that's the best way to do it. Like contrary to popular belief, I didn't just get asked to cast because I'm a girl. I just like to talk about the
Whoa!
game.
Breaking
Yeah,
news.
crazy, right?
Seems
Like
fake.
I just like talking about the game like anybody else at the time, at least in that venue. And we just had fun with it. And what I mean by getting thrown to the sharks, I was asked in just a month of me talking about that top 8 for the first time that night. In 1 month, I was asked to do the MVG. I think it was Frame Perfect at the time, which was a uh, regional tournament that happened with a lot of good talent. And if you remember at the time for Smash 4, how much talent Florida as a state had between
Oh yeah.
CFL, NFL, SFO, you had Rio, you had Mewtwo King, H-Box would show up. Dath, we had Manny. There were so many people, just so many good players. Sam, Nick Riddle, 8-Bit Man, so many good players. And then we also would sometimes occasionally get players flying in from the Dominican Republic, from Peru. Like we actually got a lot of international players too, like from the islands that were just southern of where Florida's at. So overall, like how we would do with our tournaments, like we had a lot of good players, but there were a lot of players to remember. And that was my first time casting at a tournament or a different setting that wasn't versus a gaming center. So and the last times that I did do versus tournaments, I was with Black Eye Gamer. Like the 2 weeks that I think that I've been casting in total, or 3 weeks, it was with Black Eye Gamer. And we were popping off together. We had a lot of friendly banter. He loved talking a lot on the mic. Black Eye Gamer wanted to put most of his focus though after a few months into football because that's what he was on a scholarship with when he was attending school. And I, on the other hand, I was juggling just school, like just full time, and then also commentary as like a hobby. I didn't take it anything beyond that, or I wasn't intending to, of course.
Sure.
So like from there, we went from the local to regionals, and in 3 weeks, and then I know that one time I was getting a phone call at Versus Gaming Center at one of the locals. I want to say like 4 months later, like I want to say around January of 2016. I got a phone call from Nintendo. It was one of the representatives from Nintendo asking me to do the San Diego Comic Con event, and this was all moving so fast for me that I was like, Oh my god. I better get good, and I better get good quick. Like like there is no chance to like mess up. I'm trying to make a good impression here. Like I guess that was like my mindset at the time. I was only 19. So, yeah, that's kind of how everything started for me, but everything started really quick, and it was like those three events in succession that just happened back to back, and I was like, "All right, we're out here."
That's so awesome. Like as someone that's been around for a good chunk. I was doing the math the other day when I was talking about this with some of my other friends, but I was like, yeah, I was 20 when I started in the scene, and by the time I'd say yeah, I was 20, going on my 21st birthday. When the year that Smash Wii U came out, and like I emphasize with a lot of those same things that you were going through, where like you're filling a need at your local scene, and then you kind of just get shot up the food chain because you're filling a need.
Mhm.
So like there was instances where like I was like, oh my god, like everything is happening so fast. Like I need to like
Yeah.
take a second to breathe, but like that is nothing compared to what you went through before you literally turned 20. Like and listen, I'm sure it's no surprise, fast forward all these years later, you're still crushing it, and I'm still I'm so proud of you as a friend, as a fan. I love it.
Thank you.
And like, listen, that's such a great story. And like you said, listen, whenever people ask me like how do they get started, granted, things were a little bit hard, this past year, given the fact that there wasn't any in-person
Yeah.
locals and stuff. But even then, I'm watching people fill the need from home. I'm very impressed with the average commentator's home rig now
Same.
in May of 2021. Like I don't, I'll touch back on that in a second. But
Mhm.
listen, like if you're a budding commentator, locals are starting back up again. And back when I started, when Vicky started, having a local with a stream wasn't always a given. Now
Yeah.
it's like everybody has, everybody's got an Elgato. Like
Yep.
everybody's got something. Every local has at least some semblance of a stream with really decent production value. So the resources are there. Go to your local scene, get familiar with the people in your area, and listen, us commentators, we hear things, we talk to people, we see the people that are putting in the Lord's work, and we will continue to pay attention to those things. You could be the next great success story. Just please don't take my job. I mean, what? Too easy or something? I think there's a draft in here, but so that brings me to my next question. So obviously, uh we've been in quarantine for the last bit right now. How has that been for you, commentating from home with all the various things you do? Because like I said, you're commentating Overwatch League right now. You're doing that from the confines of your home. So how has the last like 15 months been for you as a commentator?
Can't walk through my room. There's like four Pelican cases and like five gigantic monitor like boxes blocking my way to the kitchen. Like it's terrible. No, I'm joking. It's not terrible. Obviously, it's. I'm having a really good time. Aside from the lack of space, yeah. I mean, I'm actually glad that you brought up at home commentators that have taken up that step to fulfill casters that are needed during these online tournaments that Smash has been forced to move over into, especially because of quarantine. So I like that you brought that up because I stepped away from Smash when quarantine happened, and it wasn't intentionally. It was more like, okay, before quarantine has started in March, I was coming back home from Evo Japan. Like, mind you, I'm coming back when things are starting to get bad in the US. And
Oh
I'm like
yeah.
worried out here, like, are we gonna get like, I don't speak Japanese. I'm here is kind of
Oh my
celebrating
God.
like graduating. I'm graduating. I just graduated college. I was the last class to
Hey,
actually walk my graduation. Actually, December 2019 was the year that I graduated from FIU.
go
And
Panthers! Go Panthers!
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Go Panthers out here. Like we're here graduating. I'm now an alumni of FIU. So to celebrate this, I had decided to extend my trip to Evo Japan by an extra week to enjoy Japan, to enjoy Tokyo. To this is like this was like on my bucket list. I wanted to go so bad. And I'm crazy. I'm out here like I'm going to go by myself, like, you know. And then my mom surprised me actually, and she met me in Japan after the work week that I did at Evo. So she met me on the last day of Evo, and from there we actually spent the rest of the vacation together. But it was like a kind of like a birthday trip to myself. And so like I came home early February. I want to say the week of Valentine's Day. I came home, and then that's when things started looking bad. And then I had a flight the following weekend to Germany because I had actually asked to do Overwatch Contenders in December of 2019. So it was already planned before COVID was even on anyone's mind for me to cast Contenders, except I was going
Wow.
to live half the year in Germany. And because the Contender studio was in Germany. So
Oh.
I had pre-planned to fly to the US, and I already worked with their flights to take me to events for Smash events. Like I already had Full Bloom on my schedule. I had MomoCon on my schedule. I had like 3 events lined up for us for me, and navigating through how am I juggling Contenders and Smash events in the US. Like I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I never had to get that far because the borders closed. To the flights to go to Europe were completely suspended the day right before I was supposed to fly to Germany. Now, maybe it was a blessing because who knows, like the trouble that I would have found myself in if I already went to Germany and then the borders closed. Like, I don't know how complicated things got after that because I didn't have to deal with it myself. But that is what happened in terms of timing. And I'm here like, oh my God, like now I'm not flying to Germany. I don't know what's happening with Contenders. Like, I guess we'll find out what happens here. And I didn't cancel any of my Smash plans for Overwatch. Like, it's funny because people are like, I don't see that you're casting anymore. What's going on? And I'm like, oh no, I still cast Smash events. It's just I'm now focusing on other things too at the same time. I'm not gonna say no to a Smash event that comes my way. I actually covered the I think it was Toys for Tots in December, the online Smash tournament that happened that I casted with Hazmat.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I've
yeah.
done some Smash events, but I'm now trying to learn a completely new pacing in terms of commentary for other games, and I already know the pacing for Smash. So I'm gonna have to prioritize events for this, especially when I'm under contract for months at a time, rather than one event here, one event there, one maybe an event in the future here. No, like I'm under a contract for a certain duration of time, so I have to make sure like I'm performing to my best because it's a little different in having to work with other people in Blizzard, because when you're actually like working to get better, they give you like they actually have professional forms of feedback that they give the casters. Like, hey, do you want your
Oh
VOD
wow.
reviewed? Yeah, we'll set a time for you to review with an Overwatch League caster to sit down with you, and they'll review your VODs as a duo together, and they'll let you know, hey, you could do this differently here, and you submit your best VOD that you think you did, and they'll break it down, and they'll spend a few hours with you and your duo partner just to go over this VOD. And like, so I had my time preoccupied for a long time. And I didn't know if this was like maybe this is a sign, COVID happened at this time, and now Smash events can't happen anymore. Everyone was working their way around, the net code that we were presented with in Smash Ultimate. And it's like how the best way to go about making an event was. So while everyone was figuring that out, I'm out here. I'm like, I don't have a job. I just graduated college. Like, I'm out here trying to make sure that I could keep this up as a hobby and maybe even take it beyond that because I always wanted to keep up production. My major was communications and media broadcast, so I was trying to make sure that I could at least keep what I was doing going without getting too rusty. Because by the time I want to say late March rolled in, and I had to do, we finally settled in on a remote situation for all the casters for Overwatch Contenders. I hadn't casted since Evo Japan. That was in January. We are now approaching March. I feel absolutely rusty if I'm not casting in 2.5 months because I don't remember the last time I hadn't casted that long. Like, it was so long ago. I was doing events almost every week for Ultimate when it first came out. So it just made me also a little scared because my self-esteem with casting wasn't always the best when it came with Smash because I had to deal with a lot of stuff, like making sure that I was focusing on myself and being able to filter out the constructive criticism and just like the bias criticism. And that's a lot, and it's a lot of that in the entertainment industry as well. It's not just isolated to Smash or just gaming or esports. Like, it's like that in a lot of different industries where you have to show your face on camera. And that was just part of growing up for myself because, again, like, I started at 19 and I was kind of going through my own self journey of like, wow, maybe I finally found something that I could like enjoy and grow in aside from competitive gaming that I could take up a notch. And maybe I can make this into a dream, into a living if I could really push the limits on this.
Wow. Listen. If anybody ever says that you're not one of the hardest working people on planet Earth, I am swinging. Oh my God, that is so. I'm truly speechless. As a podcast host, that's bad, but like, as someone that obviously that knows that you've been working a lot from home, as we were kind of in the planning phase of talking about this, I was like, oh, I'd love to have Vicky on the podcast, but I know that she is literally like working all the time. And you're like, oh no, like I'm commentating at like 5 a.m, so I have like a break, and I'm just like, oof, girl. Like that.
Yeah, you know that though. You know that feel. You were commentating the APAC region not so long ago
brother.
for
Shout out to
Smash
Australia.
World Tour.
Shout out to
yeah,
Australia.
yeah.
Oof. Oh,
Oceania, that's tough, man. Especially, with that different time zone. It's hard, but I'm not gonna lie. I have to say, when it comes to remote setups, I love how we were talking about now how we've kind of been turned a little bit into an extrovert, introvert at the same time, because now we've been forced to be with ourselves for so long that doing remote broadcasts, I feel like have that same feeling for me, because it's like I finish the cast, and guess what? My bed is to my left. Like,
Yeah.
okay, sweet. I'm gonna chill out and play some Apex or something. Like, I don't know, like, and vibe, I guess. Like, or like I call up my friends that are down the street that I know have been self quarantining, and maybe, like, I don't know, we Uber Eats like some food. Like, I don't like something like that.
Yeah.
Like, make up for that time that I'm not at events now. Now I have to make up for it in my own comfortable way when I'm home. And honestly, I was not really home that often because I was so busy traveling to different events, because that was part of the beauty of competing in Smash or working a Smash event.
No, I agree. It definitely got to the point, because there are always points of the year that I always mark off as like the busy season, and like it's usually like right at the beginning of the year, January.
Yep.
You have like you have like
Genesis.
there's Genesis. There's probably an MDVA event, and there's like a third thing that I'm missing off the top of my dome.
Then Frostbite was like immediately afterwards.
Yeah, yep. Frostbite's like the first week of February. So like from like that, 4 or 5 week stretch, I'm never home. And then, I'm around. I'm like, sporadically, traveling up and down the East Coast. And then the summer hits, and it's like, okay, there's Shine, there's Super Smash Con, there's Evo. Granted, I'd usually pick and choose where I'd go at by that point, but like it got to the point where I'd be home for a weekend, and my parents would be like, "You're home?" I'm just like, yeah. Like, do you mind? I'm trying to watch cartoons. Like, let me rock. So like, I definitely appreciate just kind of reflecting on my own experience from being home, commentating from home and stuff. That I appreciate just kind of like relaxing and like being
pajama
home.
pants. The pajama pants. I know we all resonate with this. I'm not the only one. Pajama pants and socks, man. Wearing a nice dress T-shirt.
Listen, I listen. It's I promised I wouldn't expose trade secrets on this podcast, but listen. I'm getting on my soapbox to announce I have been getting dressed from the waist up the entirety of quarantine.
Yup. Best believe in those Overwatch League casts that I'm not wearing shoes. The heck, I'm wearing my socks. And
shoes that's weird.
That is true. That is super weird. Although I'm not barefoot. Some people like being barefoot, which I also can't handle, because I'm like that traditional Hispanic where if you walk around barefoot, you're gonna get sick suddenly. Like, that's just how it goes out here. Like, those myths that your parents used to feed you. Like, oh, if you hang around, if you take a shower while it's storming outside, you're gonna get electrocuted, like, automatically, hands down. Like, this 100% guaranteed.
I feel so seen. Oh no.
Yeah, it's definitely the call out post. But yeah, no, it's definitely just being like comfortable. I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm not walking around the venue at Smash events that I'm currently at, like, live, wearing my Twitch pajama pants that I'm doing right now, because obviously that's not appropriate. But also, for Overwatch League Cast, it's super funny because I was wearing like the whole shindig. Like, they were giving us like a wardrobe designer. We actually have like full outfits and stuff like that. And I learned just this past weekend that from the waist down, no one sees us. So I've been dressing up even from the waist down for no reason. And I felt so betrayed and bamboozled. It was so funny because everyone was like, "Huh, you didn't know that?" I'm like, man, I should have just put it together, but I thought for some reason people could see from the waist down.
Yeah,
because they chroma key us into a set.
Oh, okay. I don't blame you for that then. Like, most of the time, like, I've been sitting at my desk, and I'm going to expose myself this one time, and this one time only. So you guys can get your pickings on this one. So I was helping commentate, an event for one of my friends. Obviously we're commentating remotely. So, I'm sitting at my desk, and, I'm commentating, and I just gotten out of the shower, like I had maybe like 20 minutes before the event started. So I decide that this is gonna be the day where I'm just commentating in my underwear. Like, if you haven't done it from home,
Yo,
like,
savage. I mean, yo, that's the beauty of being home,
Yeah.
though, right?
exactly, they don't have to. Yeah, exactly, they don't have to know. But like, I decided it would be like, I think I have some like weird posters on my background and stuff like that. So like, I had just gotten like a new poster, so I like moved my webcam off of my computer to like just like show like the above angle shot of what I got, and then I dropped my webcam. And I'm just like, oh no! I hope I'm
Oh,
like,
no!
I'm just like, I really hope I'm pushed in far enough at my desk to where nobody knows what the fuck is going on. Because I was like, oh no, I'm ruined. I just got I just started playing through like the 7 stages of like grief in my brain, but thankfully, we moved past it like very quickly. Nobody even said anything. I was just like, okay, thank God. So my advice to at-home commentate, basketball shorts, everybody, do yourself a solid. But that's so cool though, and like hearing how you still continue to stay very busy, but also still be able to to get your social time in is really interesting. And the fact that you had scheduled flights to bring you back to America from Germany for Smash events, like I don't
I go back and forth.
You were playing you were playing 5
There was one
chess.
flight. Yeah, there was one flight. I think it was the one that was after the first weekend that I covered contenders. That I actually I think it was to Full Bloom, that I actually would not have had any sleep. Like my sleep would have only been on the flight, and then I would quite literally have gotten down from that flight from Germany to go to Full Bloom to then commentate the same day without sleep in between, unless I had just slept on the flight. So I remember that was one flight that was decided. And I was like, Vicky, you are one crazy ass motherfucker. But you know what? If it works out, then it works out. And I was trying to that was my attempt to learn how to juggle casting multiple games. That was my approach to the year and how I was going to see the year before the rest of 2020 events unfolded.
So now that brings me to my next question, because I'm really curious about this. Like, as someone who has, granted, I'm using the word tried very loosely. There's a lot of parentheses around this, a lot of air quotes. So like, I've dipped my toes into other games, whether it be like, Splatoon or like other fighting games, other games that I seemed interested in. And, obviously not many of them have stuck. Like, I enjoy them as a spectator and playing them on my own time, but like getting the competitive drive, like, that's just something I've always lacked as a person. Like, you do very much have that competitive drive about everything. I feel like if I put down like a board of like chutes and ladders in front of you, you would we would be screaming at each other trying to play it. But
me and Parcheesi, don't find me or Catan though. Well, both those games, there will be blood.
Oh, it's down. It's going to fuck down whenever we get together again. But I've tried, and it granted I'll probably try again. But like, how now that you've been doing this for a while now, like, would you say that commentating multiple games has gotten easier? Like, what's your little like hack or advice to people that try to branch out into other games if they choose to do so?
Time has passed for me while trying to do it, because now I'm doing 3 different games that don't include Smash. It's definitely my approach to it has gotten easier. But the best advice I could give to anybody, because this is my own advice that I follow, I do not cast games that I do not play. Like, I can't. I won't be able to cast properly. I can't give an analytical point of view to a game that I just don't play. And something that I had to learn really early on in my career was in 2017, Nintendo asked me to cast E3, and me thinking I'm casting something Smash related wasn't the freaking case. I was introducing ARMS, and I was opening up Pokken Tournament 2017, like for the Wii U. And those are 2 games that I do not cast. And one, obviously, because they both hadn't come out yet, but also because of the fact that the only fighting game that I really enjoyed, and I know this is a common like stereotype with Smashers, but I'm gonna just be honest, because I play other genres of games, and fighting games were not my genre. I never really, actually, my sister, who is younger than me, loves fighting games in general as a genre more than I do. She played Injustice, she played Mortal Kombat, like, she played Street Fighter.
Wow.
Me, I only played Smash Brothers. Like, that was the only fighting game that I actually enjoyed. Is the platform fighter to it? Maybe. I didn't play Brawlhalla. I haven't played Rivals of either. Like, not because I don't want to, it's just I haven't had the chance to. And meanwhile, like, I'm here, my only experience with fighting games is actually just Smash Brothers. And so I'm now being told, hey, we want you to cast Pokken Tournament and we want you to open up and introduce arms. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be horrible. This is not gonna be good. Like, I'm not gonna be able to cast my best ability. All I know right now is Smash Brothers, and I could tell you what frames certain moves are on, and what's safe and what's not safe on Shield, what could be done out of Shield, the fastest out of Shield option for the specific character that is the best at the time. Like, I don't know. Like, I could tell you all these details. I cannot explain to you what you're supposed to go for as an objective in arms. Like, not before obviously I could see it and stuff like that. So like, that was a big concern of mine. And I mentioned it earlier, but I had big self-esteem issues being a caster, just making sure like I wanted to go above and beyond with every cast I did. I was a very textbook type of caster when I started out. I loved my notes. I made my own notes per character, and I did that for I actually still had to this day. I have my notes for Pokken and Arms for that E3, and like the amount of handwritten notes that I went ahead and did to prepare for the event was and that next level, honestly. And I guess the way I went about that event was that these are fighting games, and the conditions in fighting games is going to be the same as the conditions you see in Smash. Just it looks different. This is a 3D platformer, and meanwhile, these other type of fighting games, you got Pokken that was a mix of Tekken and Street Fighter because you had the field and dual phase to aspect to work with, as well as assists. And I didn't even play Marvel vs. Capcom back in the day, so like this whole concept to me was I had to learn it anew because Pokken worked more as a traditional fighter than Smash did. So I'm out here like, now I'm relearning a completely new genre of casting that I didn't have to actually go about things when it came to Smash, and trying to learn the pacing of when to throw and when to take. And Smash, one thing that I have to say that left me with a bad habit, because it's not necessary to know it, that I have now taken on as this challenge for myself as a caster throughout the last 2 years, because it is so important in every other game, is establishing a role between a strict play-by-play only caster and a strict color caster. We do see that at times between Smash casters, but there's a Smash allows for flip-flopping because of the pacing of the game. Sometimes you're play-by-play for one phrase, next phrase you're doing color casting, and you could do that in Smash and get away with it. In other esports, you are actually only hired depending on if you're a play-by-play or color. If a game needs a play-by-play caster, they're not gonna look at anybody who does color casting. They're only gonna be looking at play-by-play. Like it's like a resume thing. It's like, hey, I specialize in doing play-by-play, or hey, I specialize doing color, and like those are strict rules that people make their commentary practice on. And I think it has to do with Smash, like pacing. It's not the community or the caster. No, it's not because of anyone's fault. It's no one's fault. There's no fingers to point. It's just the pacing of the game, and that was the toughest thing for me when it came to going into an FPS game like Overwatch, because now I'm being told, no, this isn't like conversational commentary. There needs to be a strict establishment with when you're talking and when you're not talking, so things don't sound so discombobulated. Like, they want to make things sound neat and unique, and they want to have everybody have an equal line of talking, and it's sounding nice and flowy, and just that's what they want, and it sounds best with those type of games. Whereas in Smash, what are you going to do as a color caster? Talk about the mental game the entire time, and then, oh, look at that, there's a conversion going on. What are you going to do? Cut yourself off and just let your co-caster like take over from there? Like, theoretically, you can. Will it sound great? I don't think so. Like, it's just difficult to do that in Smash. And when it comes to other chaotic games that have a pacing to it, like Overwatch, you need to have roles established. And I think for Pokken, taking over Pokken, I think it's more relevant in traditional fighting games too, to have that play-by-play in color. Even though it could go from one instance to another where things like crazy things could happen, you're not so much talking about positioning other than who's stuck against the wall. Whereas positioning is super important, and there's different variations of positioning in Smash Brothers because of the different stages that we have, and the purpose is why you go to those stages for specific wants for those characters. So I think when it comes to having that play-by-play in color that I found within myself in Pokken, I was able to work on it even more this year, because I covered the Pokemon Players Cup 3 right after I covered contenders. So now I was able to get some practice in that because I do play by play for Overwatch right now. That's my role in commentary for these games. And it's funny because I actually just recently started up Apex. And I think the beauty about Smash commentary, so it's giving me bad habits where it's like, oh, I got to learn a role because I kind of could do both, to now it's like, oh, but I could do both, I may not have a specialty, but I know when to flip between both play-by-play and color, and what sounds best for me and what may be best for me depending on the genre. Not many other like high-level esports casters could say the same because they've been practicing the same role for years in other games that may transition properly to those role-based casting roles in that way. So like I have people that have been doing play-by-play for the last 3 years, whether it be coming in from League of Legends to Counterstrike to Overwatch, to me that's like, sure, I could do my play-by-play, but also I'm extremely analytical, and that's how I started like with Smash commentary, and I could talk about everything in between that downtime, but it doesn't work that way with Smash. Now, for Apex, I actually could do color commentary. I've actually been trying to cover color commentary as a role. Sometimes I go into play-by-play because you're also still trying to find synergy and you're constantly working with a new person like you would in Smash. But the way that roles work for casting in these other games is that you have a concrete co-caster and nobody else casts with you because your play-by-play or your color and your co-caster is the opposite role, and that is how it's done for like the whole season, and that's how they go about it.
Whenever the topic of commentary comes up again in like 6 months, whenever we decide to spin the wheel again in the Smash community of recycled,
Oh yeah, oh my god.
of recycled topics, I'm going to point everybody to this specific segment because number one, you hit on you hit on a lot of the same points that I talk about, amongst my friends and my colleagues, whenever these sort of topics of conversation come up. But my god, I can listen to you talk about commentary forever. Like you were like,
No, I can't too. I can talk about it for so. I was like, let me just stop right here because I think I got my points across. But I actually could get deeper into why this sounds better, why it doesn't. But like, then I'll just take up the whole podcast, Koopa.
Listen, the world needs this sort of lecture. I remember I love to do the same thing too. I think commentators, anybody that's like does a trade, just loves to talk shop about it. It's like this is our like golf. If we're like,
yeah,
if we're dads, if we're dads in our 50s at this point. But like, listen, I could listen to you talk about this forever, and we'll talk about it obviously more in person and stuff too. And I've actually, when I was looking through my Google Docs for for the document that I had written up for this episode, I came across, me and Hazmat did a panel together about commentary for dummies, like, 3 years ago that I completely forgot happened. So, like, I think commentators just love to talk shop, and, like, I think a lot of people really don't have that sort of insight, into other esports and how it functions. And, I think where I, personally find a lot of my role establishments is because I watch a lot of, regular sports and stuff too. So, when I think of Smash, I think of like really like high octane, like fast sports, like basketball, like hockey, games where you don't really have an instance or like much downtime to really like break things down into a fine powder. But then I think of games like, like football and baseball, where there's a lot more stoppages of play, where, you can really, sit down, have, get into a conversation. Everybody has their role. And, where these other sports, you see people kind of, flip back and forth. And that is so awesome. I love all of that. Now I do have one more question. One more question for you.
Yeah.
So the bulk of what I do in this podcast is, I wanted to talk about things, not only A, is an opportunity to catch up with my friends and talk to people I haven't seen in a while, but B, to kind of get like a peer into how people like to spend their time, when everybody's just kind of taking a break. Obviously I spend a lot of my time watching, sitcoms and, and anime and stuff like that, because that's what I like to do. So what, when the hustle and bustle of commentary is not, at the forefront of what you're doing, how does VikkiKitty spend her time off? What's your hobby in your downtime?
Oh man, the only way I could cast all these games is playing them. To be quite honest with you, so if I'm not casting, I'm definitely like, if it's not me playing Overwatch or me playing Apex, it's funny because the times that I would play Smash the most would be during my viewer battles, and I would stream them. And I haven't streamed in a really long time. My internet just became really unstable for some reason at the peak
Oh,
of
girl,
quarantine, and
don't get me
I haven't
started.
played
Oh, yeah,
Smash
yeah.
online in a very long time. But aside from playing either Apex, Overwatch, or I watch a lot of anime myself, always making sure like I get a bunch of references from my friends who watch ahead of me. But currently, I am watching Haiku, and I just finished
Yeah.
Castlevania, like the new season, and now I'm also like on episode 3 of Invincible. So I juggle a lot of shows myself. Movies, like I'm in the middle of rewatching Harry Potter, like having my own like Harry Potter
Oh,
marathon.
nice.
Yeah, just relax and enjoying time with friends that, obviously in a safe way, seeing how friends are doing. And, I honestly do I'm not isolated all the time. I'm not just, yeah, the days seem like they've been bleeding in together, like since the start of quarantine, but I do see my family whenever they come by, and I know that they're safe, especially my older family, that they wouldn't go out anywhere unless things are okay for them. And or my friends that live down the street from me, that I've also just seen the same amount of people that I have, or the same people in general, like all safe practices, but that's it. Like hanging out with some friends and maybe the same 2 to 3 people, and then doing everything else I mentioned prior, like playing games, watching anime, watching movies, keeping up with the to date with things that are happening, and cryptocurrency, something else I've been doing. So
Oh,
doing all
man.
those things, all of the above, basically, aside from studying a lot with commentary, because I really do think that for the most of my time, I do a lot of odd reviews. I'm now trying to make sure. Like the other day in my Overwatch contenders cast, I was trying to say that a diva got demeched and she was gonna reset, and I said like the diva got remeched and she lost the stock, and like my co-caster like paused and he was like, "What game are you on?" I'm like, "Obviously not in this one." Anyways, the reset is there anyway. I was like, yeah, it's funny though, because there's a lot of friendly banter, and the tier 2 scene definitely reminds me of the grassroots scene that I usually get to work with. And I made so many friends too that I haven't been able to meet in person. So that's something else I'm looking forward to once everything comes back offline, and I get to try to see how I'm gonna be juggling everything offline, because obviously it's easier when I can access everything at once on my computer.
Yeah, rumor has it eventually Vicky goes to sleep, guys. At some point.
Eventually.
Yeah. At some point, but I love that. And I also think it's important, to have those moments of downtime. And, I try to keep up with what's hip and what's current. I'm actually rewatching the Harry Potter movies too, ironically.
Hey.
Yeah, so back last year around this time, I had been laid off from my job. So I wasn't
Hmm.
working, and my girlfriend also was laid off from her job. And so, I spent a lot of my days, waxing poetic about, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and like how much I love that series of films. And my girlfriend had not seen like pretty much any of the Marvel films before. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, oh no, we need to do this like now. Like both of us
Oh
don't have
man, that's
jobs.
the
We have
best.
like, girl, we have time. We have time to do this. So the deal I signed with the devil is that she would watch all 22 of like the current MCU films with me, and then we had to sweeten the deal a bit because I'd have to watch all the Harry Potter movies with her. I'd already seen them before, but then I exposed myself on my nerd card where I had never seen any of the Lord of the Ring movies before.
Wow, you're speaking my language. Throughout the quarantine, I watched the Star Wars films out of order, and I didn't really quite understand what was going on. So I've watched all the Star Wars films. I've watched all the Lord of the Rings plus the Hobbit movies. I've started rewatching Harry Potter now, and I also tried starting watching all the Marvel movies from the start, because I also watched those movies out of order, and I got through Iron Man 2, and then I haven't continued on from there yet.
Listen, just get past Iron Man 2. Yeah, I didn't even make my girlfriend watch Iron Man 2. I just told her what happened because I'm just like, listen, like this is what happens. Scarlett Johansson shows up and Terrence Howard is now Don Cheadle. That's it. We're moving on. So like, it's definitely, it definitely hits a stride once you get past like those first like initial like films. Like past the first Avengers, everything's like becomes just an absolute banger. But yeah, listen, I've had a lot of time, and I'm trying to take a lot of those notches out of my nerd card. I just watched the first episode of Freaks and Geeks the other day. I'd never seen it before.
Hey,
so
yeah, I haven't either actually.
We're out here. It's pretty good stuff. But so we've been going for about an hour. So I think we're gonna be wrapping things up here in a bit. But first and foremost, Vicky, I want to thank you for coming on today. I knew this was gonna be fun. Again, we have fun whenever we populate the same room together. So I miss you dearly. I can't wait to hang out with you again. It's gonna be loud. It's good. I might cry.
Oh yeah,
I'm definitely gonna cry.
No, I definitely think I'm gonna cry when I'm at my next event. Gonna be that dramatic person to just be so happy. Like, yeah, I've had so many dreams too about it. It sounds crazy.
Because we are crazy, Vicky. We're commentators. This is what we
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
We love this. I am so by the time this comes out, I'm not going to be revealing anything crazy, but this coming Saturday I'm going to be commentating in person with people for the first time.
Good luck with that. You got this. It's gonna be so much fun. You're gonna have such a good time.
I know. I'm so excited to see people and not have to worry about my internet dropping out, so I sound like I'm drunk. I have to make sure my jeans still fit. It's gonna be an array of emotions, but it's gonna be emotional. It's because we're us. Despite the popular belief, a lot of us commentators are close. It's a big dysfunctional. It's a big dysfunctional.
We're like a big family. Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's a cousin. Everybody's a cousin. It's fun. But Vicky, like I've mentioned multiple times, you are the hardest working woman on planet Earth, one of them at the very least. So where can the lovely people at home find you if they want to follow what you're doing? I'm gonna have everything in the YouTube description below, but for those people that are too lazy to read, let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's on at VikkiKitty, VikkiKitty. Both on my Instagram and my Twitter is where I usually update news. Even though I don't update my Instagram all too much, I usually try with the biggest news, try to update on there. But yeah, most definitely Twitter is where I keep things mostly up to date. And when I start streaming again, hopefully get that time to myself to be able to do that, it's gonna be at VikkiKitty on Twitch. So yeah, those are the best places to definitely find what I'm doing and what I'm up to at the time.
Awesome. And again, I'm going to put all this in the description below, so don't be lazy. Read the descriptions. So, as always, folks, you can find me at Koopa NJ across platforms, Twitter, Twitch. I do that thing sometimes, and Instagram if you're into that sort of thing. I take a lot of pictures of food. Get used to it. But listen, follow the show online, obviously. We're at Koop'd Pod across platforms, or across wherever you get your platforms or wherever you get your podcast. We're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's podcast apps that I haven't even heard of that we're on. So like us, review us. We're also on YouTube. The VOD will be going up on Saturday like it always does. And email us questions if you want to do that too at koop'dpod@gmail.com. So once again, folks, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, have fun and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.